Imagine holding the master key to the universe in the palm of your hand. You insert it into the lock, you turn it, but the door refuses to open. You blame yourself. You think you didn't turn it hard enough, or perhaps you are simply unworthy of entry. But what if the problem isn't your hand? What if the problem is the key itself? For nearly 2,000 years, humanity has been reciting a specific sequence of words, believing it to be the ultimate connection to the divine. You know it as the Lord's Prayer. It has been memorized by billions. But the version you were taught is a code with the activation sequence deliberately deleted. In 1945, a sealed jar buried in the Egyptian desert was broken open, exposing the Gnostic texts that the empires of the past tried to burn. Inside was the original blueprint of the prayer, and it revealed a shocking truth. 3 specific words were surgically removed from the opening line. This was not an accident. It was a containment strategy, because these 3 words change the physics of the prayer entirely. When you restore them, the concept of sin collapses. The feeling of separation vanishes. The prayer shifts from a servant, begging a distant master, into a creator commanding their own reality. If you have found your way to this transmission, it is not a coincidence. The algorithm did not bring you here. A resonance within you did. You have felt the silence when you pray. You have felt the missing piece. Tonight, we are not just learning history. We are reclaiming your power. We are going to restore the 3 words that turn the prayer from a ritual of submission into a code of awakening. Observe the subtle geometry of your body when you pray. Instinctively, you look up. You cast your eyes toward the sky, or you project your mind outward, searching for a signal in the cold void of space. This is not a natural reflex. It is a programmed behavior, encoded into the very first sentence you were taught to memorize. Our Father, who art in heaven. Analyze the frequency of those 5 words. They act as a psychic wall. They position the divine as a distant authority residing in a specific location that is decidedly not here. It places you down in the mud and God up behind the gates. It turns the act of prayer into a long-distance call to a monarch who is likely too busy to answer. This distance was not an accident. It was a masterstroke of institutional design. The architects of the early church faced a dangerous problem. If the divine is right here, woven into the fabric of your breath, you do not need a middleman. You do not need a priest to interpret the silence. A population that recognizes the source within is sovereign. But a population that believes the source is external becomes a customer. They need a bridge to cross the chasm, and the institution happily set itself up as the only toll collector on that bridge. The version of the prayer you know is a petition. It is a request for resources submitted to an external manager. But the Aramaic original was a recognition. It was a method of tuning the human instrument to resonate with the monad. By changing the direction of the flow, they cut the wire. For years, you haven't been closing a circuit. You have been bleeding energy into the sky. But the original text reconnects that wire. It reveals that the kingdom is not a place you go to when you die. It is a frequency you inhabit right now. To understand why the code was broken, we must identify the thief. The removal of I am within was not a clerical error made by a tired scribe. It was a containment strategy executed by a crumbling empire. Travel back to the 4th century. The Roman Empire was fracturing. Emperor Constantine needed a glue to hold his territories together, and he found that glue in Christianity. But he had a major problem. The early Gnostic tradition was wild, untamed, and deeply individualistic. The Gnostics did not build grand temples. They did not need a hierarchy of bishops. They taught that the divine spark resided in every human chest. They taught that Jesus was not a ruler to be worshipped, but a brother to be emulated, proof of what a human could become when they realized their own divinity. This was a nightmare for an empire. Think about it from the perspective of a ruler. You cannot build an obedient society on a foundation of sovereign mystics. a citizen who recognizes God within answers only to that inner voice. They are difficult to tax, impossible to frighten, and ungovernable. But a citizen who believes God is a distant, judgmental monarch in the sky, that citizen is useful. That citizen looks for a representative on earth. That citizen bows to the priest, and by extension, bows to the emperor. So the Council of Nicaea was convened. This was not a spiritual gathering, it was a corporate merger. They standardized the texts, they curated the Bible. And in this process, they systematically erased the internal coordinate. They took the Jesus who said, "What I do, you can do also," and they elevated him onto an unreachable pedestal. They turned the teacher of self-realization into an idol of external salvation. The Gnostics who refused this imperial edict were hunted. Their libraries were burned. The Lord's Prayer was sanitized, stripped of its activation power and mass-produced as a tool of submission. But truth is a virus. You can't kill it by burning paper. The jars buried in Nag Hammadi were time capsules, waiting for the empire to fall and for the frequency to return. That time is now. So what exactly did they delete? What were the specific words that terrified an emperor enough to burn down libraries? It was not a long incantation. It was not a complex theology. The frequency that the empire needed to silence was a simple declaration of location. The three words restored from the original Aramaic teaching are, "I am within." Let that sink in. In the standardized version you were taught, the prayer begins with directional confusion. "Our Father who art in heaven." This immediately projects your consciousness outward, away from your center, towards a vague location in the sky. It establishes absence. But the original teaching began with alignment. Jesus did not tell his disciples to shout at the sky. He told them to recognize the presence of the source already residing in their own vessel. "I am within the Father, and the Father is within me." The Gospel of Thomas, one of the suppressed texts found in that sealed jar, confirms this explicitly. Jesus says, "If those who lead you say to you, 'See, the kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds will precede you. But the kingdom is inside you, and it is outside you." This is why they erased "I am within." It collapses the distance. If the Father is within, there is no gap for the church to bridge. If the kingdom is within, you do not need to buy your way in with tithes or obedience. You simply need to remember where you are standing. Think about the phrase, "I am." In the ancient mystic traditions, this was the name of God. It is the vibration of existence itself. When you couple "I am" with "within," you are not inflating your ego. You are grounding the infinite current of the monad into your localized body. You are declaring that you are not separate from the source you are praying to. You are a fractal of it. This changes the entire physics of the prayer. It stops being a letter sent to a foreign country hoping for a reply and becomes a command code typed directly into the operating system of your own reality. The deception was to make you believe you are speaking to a king. The revelation is that you are speaking to the essence that sustains your very breath. "I am within" is the key. And once you insert it, the rest of the prayer undergoes a quantum inversion. Everything you thought you knew about daily bread and forgiveness is about to flip. Once you anchor the coordinate of "I am within," a fascinating phenomenon occurs. The rest of the prayer undergoes a polarity shift. The words may sound the same to the ear, but their vibrational architecture flips completely. This is the quantum inversion, the transformation of a plea into a recognition. Let's look at the code you've been reciting and see how the meaning changes when the encryption is removed. First, "Give us this day our daily bread." For centuries, the church taught that this was a request for physical survival. Food, money, rent. It kept you in the energy of lack, hoping a provider would throw you a scrap. But in the original Greek manuscripts, the word translated as daily is epiousios. This is a mysterious word, that appears almost nowhere else in ancient literature. It does not mean daily. Scholars admit it translates closer to supersubstantial or above the material. Jesus wasn't telling you to beg for a loaf of bread. He was teaching you to call upon the supersubstantial light, the mana, the prana, that feeds the monad. When you start with "I am within," this line stops being a beg for food. It becomes a command. I acknowledge the cosmic energy that is sustaining my existence right now. Second, forgive us our trespasses. The institution used this line to bury you in guilt. They defined trespass as sin and forgiveness as a legal pardon from an angry judge. But when "I am within" is the foundation, the concept of sin collapses. In the original Aramaic, the word for sin was an archery term. It simply meant missing the mark. It wasn't a moral failure. It was a loss of focus. It was forgetting your true nature. So forgive us inverts. It becomes a mechanism of recalibration. You are not asking a judge to wash away your crimes. You are saying, I release the illusion of separation. I realign my aim. I remember who I am. Feel the relief of that. It is an act of returning to center, not an act of groveling. Third, lead us not into temptation. This has always been the most confusing line. Why would a loving God lead you into evil? It makes no sense in the church's version. But apply the code. If I am within, you are declaring your sovereignty. You are stating that when you are aligned with the Father within, you operate at a frequency where lower vibrations, temptations, fear, evil cannot touch you. It transforms from a plea for protection into a declaration of immunity. I am so aligned within that I cannot be led astray by what is without. Do you see the shift? The institutional prayer is a letter to a landlord asking for an extension on rent. The activated prayer is the owner checking the foundation of his own house. One keeps you on your knees, the other stands you up. But to stand up, you need to understand what exactly is standing up. You need to understand the monad. The title of this transmission contains a word that likely drew you here, the monad. But what is it? And why was the church so terrified of you accessing it? In the ancient Gnostic schools, the monad was not just a fancy word for soul. It was a specific architectural definition. The word comes from the Greek monos, meaning unity, or that which is indivisible. Here is the difference. The church teaches that you are a fragment, a broken shard separated from the whole, needing to be glued back together by a priest. The Gnostics taught that you are a fractal. Think of a hologram. If you cut a holographic film in half, you don't lose half the picture. You get the whole picture, just smaller. Every tiny piece contains the total information of the whole. This is the monad. It is the realization that you are not a part of God. You are a fractal containing God. You hold the entire blueprint of the source within your specific, localized frequency. When you restore the code I am within, you are activating this holographic connection. You are telling your biological system, I am not a drop separated from the ocean. I am the ocean expressing itself as a drop. And this is exactly what the architects of control could not allow. An empire can only exist if the population acts like batteries. Think about the old way you prayed. You were sending energy out. You were pleading, hoping, fearing. You were outputting your life force to an external image. That is why religion often leaves you feeling drained. You were a battery being drained to power the institution. But Jesus came to teach you how to be a generator. A generator doesn't ask for power. It creates it by spinning its own internal mechanism. I am within is the switch that turns the generator on. When you understand this, the Lord's Prayer stops being a religious duty. It becomes a daily maintenance protocol for your divinity. You are not saying it to please a God in the sky. You are saying it to remind your human vessel of the infinite power it carries. You are aligning the drop with the ocean so the current can flow through you unimpeded. We have discussed the history. We have decoded the language. We have understood the science. Now it is time to flip the switch. Knowledge without application is merely philosophy. To see reality bend, you must move from theory to mechanics. Jesus did not leave a poem, he left a blueprint for state change. The church turned it into a rote recitation. Tonight, we turn it back into the consciousness technology it was designed to be. Here is the exact protocol to activate the I am within frequency. Phase 1, the 0 point. Do not launch into the prayer from the chaos of your thinking mind. If you pray while your mind is racing with tomorrow's to-do list, you are transmitting static. Before you speak a single word, you must clear the channel. Sit in stillness. Take 5 deep, deliberate breaths. Visualize the dust of your daily life settling. You are switching inputs from the noise of the world to the signal of the monad. Phase 2, the insertion. This is the step the empire erased. Before you address the Father, you must locate yourself. Speak the lost code, either internally or aloud. I am. Within. Do not rush this. Feel the geometry of it. You are acknowledging that you are the hologram containing the whole. You are closing the circuit. I am within the source, and the source is within me. Hold this resonance until you feel a physical shift, a lightness, a heat, or a sudden silence. That is the signal that the connection is live. Phase 3, the alchemical shift. Now, begin the verses you know so well, but observe the quantum inversion. When you say, "Thy kingdom come," feel the kingdom rising from your own center, not falling from the sky. When you say, "Give us this day our daily bread," do not think of food. Visualize the epiousios, the supersubstantial light, charging your cells like a battery. You are not begging, you are recharging. When you say, "Forgive us," feel the recalibration. You are snapping back into focus, aligning the drop with the ocean. Every request transforms into a recognition. You are not a pauper asking for coins. You are a generator coming online. Phase 4, the seal of silence. This is where most people fail. The moment they say amen, they jump up and check their phone. Do not do this. You have just raised a massive amount of high-frequency energy. If you jump back into the matrix immediately, you leak that energy, you waste it. After the final phrase, sit in absolute silence for at least 60 seconds. This is the seal. Let the monad consciousness stabilize in your biology. Let the upgrade take hold. The silence is the proof. The church taught you to speak at God. This protocol teaches you to breathe as God. You now stand at a fork in the road. In one hand, you hold the map drawn by the controllers, a version of reality where you are small, sinful, and dependent on external permission to speak to the divine. In the other hand, you hold the recovered key. Remember how we began? I asked you what happens when you turn a key that has been filed down. You get silence, you get frustration, you get a locked door, but tonight we have restored the ridges. The key is whole again. The only question remaining is, will you turn it? The institution did not remove those 3 words because they were inaccurate. They removed them because they were effective. They understood that a human being who operates from the frequency of I am within is uncontrollable. A sovereign soul does not need a mediator. A sovereign soul does not buy fear. Tonight, do not take my word for it. Do not take the church's word for it. Take the experience. When the sun sets, find your quiet space. Anchor yourself in the silence. Speak the code, I am within. And then, watch what happens to the heavy atmosphere of the room. Watch how the fear dissolves. Watch how the monologue turns into a dialogue. If you are ready to reclaim your spiritual autonomy, I ask you to leave a mark below. Type the words, I am within, in the comments. Do not do this for the algorithm. Do it as a digital signature, a signal to the universe that you are no longer playing by the old rules. Let us see how many of us have remembered. And if you seek to uncover more of the forbidden history, if you want to walk further into the library of lost knowledge, then join this order. Subscribe to secure your place in the circle. The jar has been broken. The seal is removed. The truth is no longer hidden. It is waiting for you to breathe it in. I am within, and so are you. See you in the silence.